Welcome to Hope's Peak Academy, where once you're in, you're set for life. Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc is an adventure visual novel game developed by Spike Chunsoft. Initially released in Japan on November 25th, 2010, it wasn't localized until February 11th, 2014 on the PlayStation Vita. And that turned out, well, thankfully, it did eventually get a PC port 2 years afterwards, which is the version I'll be looking at today. Danganronpa takes place at a prestigious high school known as Hope's Peak Academy. The school only accepts ultimate students who are the top students in their respective fields. It is said that if you come here and graduate, you'll be set for life. Can you imagine if this was the case in real life? Graduating as soon as you get out of college? That would be insane. Anyways, we play as Makoto Naegi, a completely average student who was lucky enough to get in through a raffle. As he enters the school of Hope's Peak Academy to start his school life, everything changes when he loses consciousness and ends up waking up in a classroom. As Makoto examines his surroundings, he realizes the school windows have been boarded up with metal plates. With no view of the outside world, he exits the classroom and goes to the main hall to meet his fellow ultimate classmates. After we introduce ourselves to our classmates, everyone is just as confused as you are until an announcement is made to meet up at the gymnasium. Here we meet Monokuma, a black and white bear who's the headmaster of the school. He announces that they will be stuck in the school for the rest of their life, but he proposes a solution. In order to get out, they must murder a classmate and get away with it. So will the students of Hope's Peak Academy sink into despair or rise above it? I really love the setup for the story. It immediately hooks you. The core themes of hope and despair are very interesting topics to tackle in a visual novel. You're really eager to know if the students of Hope's Peak will lose hope and give in to despair, or vice versa. It makes an interesting dynamic and is carried out till the very end. Now the actual gameplay consists of two parts, your school life and the school trials. In your school life, you can examine objects and talk to students. But during the free roam sections, you are able to explore the school to a certain extent. You do have the option to fast travel, but it feels a bit awkward to use, mainly due to how the map is laid out. It's a minor annoyance, but I figured it was worth mentioning for newcomers. When nothing is really happening in the story, you will occasionally have free time, which can be used to talk to your classmates and deepen your bonds with them. You also have the option to give gifts to your classmates. Gifts can be purchased with Monokuma coins at the Monokuma shop. These coins can be obtained by exploring the school or after every class trial. Although gifts don't drastically change your relationship, it does allow you to advance free time events quickly. Doing these free time events allow you to unlock helpful abilities that can be used during the class trials, so it's highly encouraged to do these free time events. It also doesn't hurt to learn more about your favorite characters. But where it gets interesting is when you are required to investigate after
a body has been discovered!
For each clue you find, you gain a truth bullet that will be used for the upcoming class trial. So it's up to you to uncover the truth and find the culprit. Before you enter the class trial though, you are allowed to set skills and set the difficulty. Like I mentioned, these skills come in real handy, and the more classmates you talk to, the more skills you will have in your arsenal. However, there is one caveat to all this, and that is, you have no idea who will die unless you spoil the game for yourself. So it becomes a guessing game of who you should hang out with before something happens to them. Honestly, there isn't a solution to this without getting spoiled, but I thought I'd just mention it. It's probably encouraging a second playthrough. Anyways, the class trials are split into a series of minigames. Most commonly out of all of them are the non-stop debates. Everyone says their statements and you have to use the right truth bullet to shoot their contradiction. You can slow down time with the space button to get a clean shot and the control button to fast forward the conversation. These become progressively harder as the game goes on, introducing white noises, more truth bullet statements, and finally being able to use other people's statements as truth bullets. Hangman's Gambit is a word guessing game where you click the right letters in the right order to spell out the word. Bullet Time Battle is a rhythm game where you have to time your mouse clicks and refute any statements the opposition is making. In the midst of all these minigames, you'll also be asked to present evidence or answer a multiple choice question. But my favorite minigame though has to be the closing argument. Using the panels below, you must piece all the events that took place in the crime. It's oddly satisfying and also a great way to conclude everything. The visuals in Danganronpa are awesome. Although a pretty old game, it still holds up. Most of the characters look great and actually fit their ultimate abilities. The school itself gives a vibe of both being chill and creepy at the same time. It's also pretty neat that the setting of each place unfolds like a pop-up storybook. Something that might be odd to some players is the use of pink blood whenever someone is murdered. This was due to censorship of the Japanese game rating system. I think this was a great move by Chunsoft because it fits very nicely with the rest of the aesthetics of Danganronpa and is now iconic with the series. One issue I did encounter is that some of the text have spaces when they shouldn't be. It's something very minor, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Music is another strong part of Danganronpa. Composed by Masafumi Takada, he did an awesome job creating the soundtrack. If that name sounds familiar, that's because he was responsible for making the tracks in Killer 7 and No More Heroes, two games I have yet to play. What these tracks nail the most is the atmosphere. Beautiful Dead being amongst my favorite. It managed to sound both relaxing and unsettling at the same time. And finally, I can't forget to mention Mr. Monokuma's lesson. It perfectly encompasses Monokuma's sadistic nature. I could honestly just keep gushing about the music, but I'll stop here before I get carried away. Now that we covered most of what Danganronpa has to offer, it's time to get into spoilers, so if you haven't played it yet, please skip to this time to avoid any spoilers. Thanks to Alter Ego, Makoto lives and Kyoko saves him from the depths of the garbage dumps. Together, they try to uncover the mysteries of the school and find out who the true mastermind behind all this. Monokuma goes along with this and allows all the rooms to be unlocked so everyone can explore. With everything explored, we head to the last trial. We uncover the truth of why they're stuck in the school, and the truth is that they locked it up themselves because of the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. But before this tragic event took place, they were all students of Hope's Peak Academy. This is why we see pictures of the students hanging out, because all of this took place before that tragic event. So why don't they remember this? Well, that's because the mastermind wiped out their memory, and the mastermind turns out to be Junko Enoshima. Junko Enoshima, being the ultimate despairer, wanted everyone to experience despair. This even goes back to the motives of each kill. But after uncovering all the mysteries and saying how hope will prevail, Junko has an awesome execution where she combines all the past executions on herself. With Junko Enoshima now executed, the fate of the surviving students remain a mystery as they open the door to the outside world. This last chapter was a lot to take in and incredibly long, but it makes a lot of sense. I think the memory wipe is a bit too convenient, but it works. I also can't forget Junka and Ashima. I absolutely loved her different personas. Clearly, her voice actor had a fun time playing her. But the fact she planned all this and even using the motives to further her message of despair is freaking genius to me. She wrapped everyone under her finger and she doesn't even care if she killed her own sister. I know the students figure it out, but Junko killed a good chunk of them. Honestly, she's just an awesome villain and fits the core themes of the story so well. The ending is left ambiguous and I think it's for a good reason. Now that we know the world is in ruins, we actually don't know what exactly happens to the students of Hope's Peak. But with the themes of hope and despair, it wants you to draw your own conclusion on whether they survive or not. To me, I think it's a brilliant way to end off a game. Playing this on PC, it ran very well. I had no issues whatsoever. Completing Danganronpa took me around 35 hours to complete. This also counts for the free time events as well. There's also a version coming out on Nintendo Switch called Danganronpa Decadence, containing the first 3 games, as well as a new game known as Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp. So this might be the collection to go with if you're eager to play the new game. Anyways, now that we covered nearly everything that Danganronpa has to offer, I have to say, I'm very impressed. I'm not usually into story games, but Danganronpa quickly changed the way I perceive them. The entire time I was so invested in the story, characters, and who would end up surviving the killing game. It might not be for everyone, but if you're really into thriller and mystery games, Danganronpa is definitely worth checking out. I just have one question. Will you side with hope or despair?